Anissa f upon Invincible. After 6 long months away, Mark finally returns to Earth, stepping through a glowing portal. He looks around, his expression tense. Great. Of all the places to be, this is the worst. His eyes scan the area. Robots not here. That's a relief. Wasting no time, he soars into the sky, gliding over the familiar sight of the New York Bridge. Okay, things seem normal. That's something. With a burst of speed, he heads straight for the Grayson home, his heart pounding. As soon as he steps inside, his voice fills the space. Eve, I know I've been gone a long time, and you're probably furious. But he stops mid-sentence. His eyes land on Eve. She's sitting in the living room, knitting. Calm. Silent. Pregnant. Mark stares in disbelief. Eve, you're okay? Are you knitting? His words feel ridiculous the second they leave his mouth. Eve, still knitting, barely looks up, her expression unreadable. Mark stumbles forward. I know this is all sudden, but where's Rex? Has he done anything strange? What did he tell you about me? Eve finally meets his eyes. He told me you were dead. Mark lets out a breathless laugh. Well, I'm not. He takes another step, trying to gauge her reaction, but she just sits there, staring. The silence is suffocating. Eve? What's wrong? Then, suddenly, she snaps. 6 months, Mark. You were gone for 6 months. Her hands tremble as she grips the fabric in her lap. Do I look the same to you? Do I seem fine? I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I lost so much weight, they had to put me in the hospital. I almost lost the baby. Mark freezes, guilt crashing over him. Eve. I had no idea. Her eyes burn with frustration. Robot told me everything. How you killed Angstrom Levy. How the Viltrumites took you down. He said he saw them kill you. She inhales sharply, steadying herself. At first, I didn't believe it. I told myself he didn't know how tough you are, what you're capable of surviving. But then he said he saw them crush your skull. Her voice wavers. Have you been healing all this time? Is that why it took you so long to come back? Mark shakes his head. No, that's not true. None of it. Eve, you have to listen to me. Her face hardens. No, Mark. I don't. She stands up, her posture stiff, emotions boiling just beneath the surface. At first, I refused to believe you were really gone. But as the days turned into weeks, I had to accept it. I had to accept raising this baby alone. The future I thought we had together, it was ripped away from me. She swallows. And then I realized, that might not be such a bad thing. Mark's gaze drops to her hand. You're not wearing your ring. Eve crosses her arms. No, I'm not. Her voice is firm now, steady. I can't put our child through this. I can't live in a constant state of waiting, wondering if you'll ever come back, or if the next time you leave, it'll be forever. Mark grabs her hand, desperate. You're right. About everything. About Angstrom, too. I should have never gone after him. His voice cracks. I know it's not enough, but I am sorry. You have to believe that. I want to fix things, but I can't, not yet. There's too much happening. I need you to come with me. Eve pulls her hand away, shaking her head. Are you even listening to me? Mark flinches. Eve, I know you're upset, but... Her voice is eerily calm. I'm not upset, Mark. I'm not yelling. I'm just telling you how things are now. She exhales, her final words like a dagger. Welcome home. I'm glad you're alive. But I never want to see you again. We're done. Mark feels the air leave his lungs. His voice is barely a whisper. What? Eve looks at him, her face softening, just a little. I know you'll want to be part of our child's life. But I don't think that's a good idea. Not when you're this unreliable. She hesitates. We'll have to figure that out eventually. But for now, I need time. I know this isn't your house, I'll move out soon. I just needed somewhere to stay while I sorted things out. Mark stands there, shattered. She keeps going. If you'd let me stay here for a few more weeks, I'd appreciate it. Tears spill down his face. Eve, please, not right now. There's so much you don't know. So much happening. You need to leave with me. You could be in danger. A lot of people could be in danger. Eve stares at him. Oh. You can't deal with this right now? Of course. Her lips tighten. How stupid of me, expecting you to have time for me breaking up with you. She turns away. Just go. Mark shakes his head. Eve, you don't understand. I said go, Mark. Her voice is cold. Final. Mark clenches his jaw, his shoulders shaking. I'll go. But you need to leave too. Go somewhere Robot won't find you. He can't be trusted. He wipes his eyes. When I get a chance to explain, I will fix this. I will make things right between us. I swear it. His voice breaks. I love you, Eve. Without another word, he lifts off the ground, soaring high into the sky. Tears stream down his face as he whispers to himself. I love you so much. Then. I've been looking everywhere for you. Mark's body stiffens. He turns, eyes wide. Standing behind him, waiting, is Anissa of the Viltrumites. Mark, clearly irritated and not in the mood to talk, dismissively responds, none of your business. Anissa exhales in frustration. I don't have time for this, Mark. You know our mission. We're here to ensure the survival of our race. She steps forward, her tone unwavering. We need more Viltrumite hybrids to strengthen our numbers. The others have done their part, many children have already been conceived. She glares at him. I'm the one falling behind. Mark starts walking away, barely interested. Sorry to hear that, but... Before he can finish, Anissa moves in front of him. I refuse to mate with these weak, inferior creatures on this planet. Her expression hardens. You, however, have Viltrumite blood. You may be young and soft, but you are still one of us. So, you will do this. Mark scoffs, shaking his head. Look, I appreciate the offer, really, but no. I'm in a relationship, and I have other things to do. So, if you'll excuse me. He takes off, flying away without a second thought. But before he can get too far, Anissa surges after him. I said, she growls before slamming her fist into his back, forcing him to a stop. Mark grits his teeth, floating in place, his patience wearing thin. I am not fighting you. Not now. I have enough problems already, and today has been absolute hell. I'm not dealing with this. Anissa remains unfazed. I don't want to fight either, Mark, but you've been gone too long. I can't delay this any further. Her voice turns sharper. Your father may be more forgiving than Thrag, but the mission remains the same, we are to rebuild the Empire. Before Mark can react, she suddenly grips his neck, pulling him close. Her lips nearly touches as she whispers, you honestly think I don't know you'd enjoy this? Disgusted, Mark struggles to push her away. This is not happening. But Anissa is relentless. She suddenly headbutts him, breaking his nose. Blood spills from his face as he stumbles back in shock. When Mark tries to escape, Anissa sneers. I was trying to do this the human way, thinking you'd be more comfortable. She wipes a smear of blood from her knuckles. Clearly, that was a mistake. Her eyes darken. Now, we'll do this the Viltrumite way. With brutal force, she delivers a flurry of punches, striking Mark repeatedly. Lucky me, she mutters, her attacks growing more ruthless. Furious, Mark finally retaliates, just stop. Don't make me fight you. Anissa barely flinches. Oh, Mark, I'm going to make you do much more than fight me. She lunges at him again, but this time, Mark doesn't hold back. He throws a devastating punch, then another, and another. Hovering above her, he glares down. Did you get the message? Anissa coughs, blood dripping from her lips. Instead of anger, amusement flickers across her face. Good. You know what I like. Mark swings again, but she blocks his attack effortlessly. You've gotten stronger, I'll admit that, she taunts. But you won't win this. Before he can react, she grabs him by the throat, slamming him into the ground with earth-shattering force. Dust and debris explode around them, scattering livestock in the countryside. Pinning him down, Anissa leans closer. I will keep pushing and pushing, until... Mark, bloodied and dazed, struggles beneath her grip. He tries to break free, but she tightens her hold. Stop fighting, she commands. This is happening whether you like it or not. With a desperate surge of strength, Mark lands another powerful punch. This isn't a game. Stop acting like it is and leave me alone. I don't want this. Anissa, unfazed, slams her foot onto his throat, forcing him back down. I don't care what you want, she sneers. And judging by your reaction, I don't think you're so sure yourself. Then, without hesitation, she tears away both his clothing and her own. Mark struggles, fights, and resists with everything he has, but Anissa overpowers him. What follows is violence, horrifying and inescapable. When it's over, Mark lies on the ground, broken, his body trembling. Tears stream down his face as he mutters in shock, I didn't, what did you do? Anissa barely spares him a glance. "Man up," she says coldly. "It'll probably take a few more times." She straightens herself. "I'll see you soon." And with that, she takes off, leaving him behind, naked, vulnerable, and shattered beyond repair. Mark doesn't move. His life will never be the same again. The interaction between Mark and Anissa is an unsettling and disturbing example of abuse. What begins as an unwanted advance quickly escalates into a terrifying violation of Mark's autonomy and dignity. This isn't just a physical assault, it's an emotional and psychological assault that leaves deep scars on the victim, scars that go beyond the immediate harm. No one, whether a Viltrumite or a human, should ever be subjected to such abuse. Mark's rejection was clear, yet Anissa ignored his consent and his right to control his own body. Consent is fundamental in any interaction, and when it's ignored or violated, the consequences are profound. In this instance, Anissa's actions were not only about overpowering Mark physically but also about stripping him of his agency, forcing him into a situation against his will. The humiliation, the violation of personal boundaries, and the complete disregard for his feelings are what make her actions reprehensible. Mark did not consent, yet he was subjected to a brutal, invasive experience that would leave him feeling powerless and broken. The effects of this abuse on Mark will be lasting. Beyond the physical injuries, it's the emotional and psychological damage that will haunt him. The violation of one's body without consent leads to a deep sense of shame, guilt, and confusion. Mark, who has always relied on his strength and his sense of control, is now left with a shattered sense of self. His trust in others is eroded, and he may struggle with feelings of worthlessness, anxiety, and depression. Abuse of any kind can lead to long-term trauma, including PTSD, trust issues, and emotional numbness. For Mark, the trauma he endures is not something that can simply be fixed or forgotten. It will linger with him for the rest of his life, affecting his relationships, his mental health, and his view of the world. This is a reminder of why such behavior should never be tolerated, in any form, under any circumstances. Sexual abuse is never justified, and no amount of power or strength can make it acceptable. Mark's experience is an example of how abuse can happen in any context, whether physical, emotional, or sexual, and the lasting effects it has on a person. It's vital that we, as a society, speak out against this kind of behavior, ensuring that people understand the importance of respect, consent, and the rights of individuals to feel safe in their own bodies. The emotional and psychological toll of abuse is immense, and we must recognize the importance of supporting survivors in their journey toward healing. In raising awareness about abuse, it's crucial to acknowledge that the harm caused is not just a one-time incident but a long-term struggle for survivors. Education about consent, boundaries, and the impact of trauma is key to creating a society where such violations are not only condemned but prevented. Mark's story is a reminder that abuse can happen anywhere and to anyone, and it is our responsibility to ensure that survivors have the support they need to heal and that perpetrators are held accountable for their actions. Abuse should never be normalized or excused in any context, and it is up to all of us to stand against it, speak up for those who cannot, and foster a culture of respect, understanding, and empathy. You can watch what happens when Anissa confronts Mark after this incident here. Thank you, and please be sure to like, share and subscribe.